No map, no quest markers, no golden compass telling you where to go next or who to talk to for your next objective. These are the tenets of Rogue Factor's Hell Is Us. In a year for gaming where notepads, intuition, and trusting your instinct have dominated some of my favorite titles this year, looking at you, Blueprints, I was incredibly impressed with the way in which Hell Is Us presents itself. For a game that tells its players nothing, it certainly has a lot to say, and it does so with stylish music, atmosphere, and deep systems of combat, investigation, and puzzle solving that are so well interwoven between each other that made my 10 hours so far with the game challenging, but never frustrating. If you're somebody like me who enjoys when a game says go figure it out yourself, or just pick a direction and go explore, you'll find something that'll clue you in to something you did 2 hours ago so then you can go back and solve a puzzle you've been thinking about or may have even forgotten about, you will be right at home with Hell Is Us. Over the next few minutes, I want to tell you about things that I enjoyed about the game, some things that I think could be improved, and then lastly, I'll be using comparisons to other games that I think either control similarly to Hell Is Us, whether that's in the actual gameplay, like sort of story beats, things of that nature, and for what it's worth, this is going to be very spoiler light. I think Hell Is Us is kind of like that never-ending gobstopper where the more you play, the more the story unravels, and I don't want to spoil that for anyone. But there will be within the first 15 minutes of the game that I'll touch on just to set the stage, and then we'll go from there. All right, let's hop into it.
Now, let's begin. How did you get into Hadia?
The Yellow Brick Road.
So, a little bit of context for Hell Is Us. Over the last 5 years, the developer Rogue Factor has been working on this game with a term that they coined called player plattering. Now, this is the antithesis to what a lot of gamers have experienced known as silver plattering, which is where a game will present itself to you and say, hey, go talk to this person at this marker. They're highlighted. You can see a beam in the sky of exactly where to go, and that can feel mindless at times. And then the developers at Rogue Factor said, look, we kind of want to harken back to these older games that really you just play the game by not having somebody pull you along every step of the way. You have to actually engage with the content of the game itself. You have to pay attention to what people are saying, whether that's clues on how to get somewhere or something they might be looking for that maybe you've already picked up on your adventure, which is a great feeling in a game, you know what I mean, where you're like, hey, I've already done this quest for you. And to go back to the exploration aspect of it, back when Red Dead Redemption 2 was about to release back in 2018, people, and I've not really heard anybody talk about this over the last few years, but you could turn the mini-map off. If you held down on the D-pad and I think press either circle or B, you could just turn the map off completely, and people would give you context clues. And that was like, oh yeah, you'll take a left at that canyon, or however they presented it then. And that rings true here as well. You'll talk to a character, and then they'll reference oh yeah, the camp. If you go up here, you'll look for a marked X on the trees. Or very early on, one of the NPCs says oh, follow the sound of the wind chimes. Those will lead you to where you need to go to find, this key or whatever it is. And I think that to me is engaging all of your senses as a player. You're obviously looking for markers. You're listening for these audio cues to kind of orient yourself in the game world. Obviously, using the wind chimes as an example there is very early on. But when you're in some of the smaller towns, it's not really a hub world, so to speak, but one of the main towns that you go to, Jova, there's a gentleman playing a violin right in the center of town, so you can really, if you've got headphones on, can navigate around the town. And if you get sort of turned around, you just follow the sound of the violin. It takes you right back to the town square. And then in a similar note to coming back later with quest items or things like that, you can bring them music sheets that you found, and it's all going to continue to build on itself in a really strong way that I think ingrains yourself as the player within the world to have an impact on the actual characters in that world, whether it's the guy that just had one song that he was like, hey, I think everybody in the town's getting tired of this song, to where you can finally give him some more music, or you're bringing a teddy bear to someone, or later on you'll reach a different camp miles away where somebody's like, man, I miss my dog. And then you're like, oh my God, I've seen that dog. That dog's in town. I've got to reunite him. All these amazing things. Because you're having to actively pay attention to the world around you. And that is so cool. The game itself is set sometime in 1993 to 1994. You're in a fictional country called Hydia that is broken out in civil war. The creative director of the game, Jonathan Jacques Bellatet, one of the quotes that he has, he says, the central theme of Hell is Us is that human violence is a perpetual cycle fueled by human emotions and passions. And that's the end quote there for him. That's a really central element to the game, is these heightened emotions and what these very high stress situations and trauma create. In the game, they personify themselves as these sort of like hollow enemies, and those are the things that you'll fight the most in the game. They're different. I'd say there's maybe like 5 to 7 different enemy types there that you'll be engaging with. You're doing mostly close quarters combat with axes, swords. You have great swords as well. I believe there's some pole arms, like spears. And all of those can be leveled up individually. So the more you use a weapon, the more it can be leveled up, and you can get different elemental effects and things like that. And it feels really good. The more you're engaging in combat with a weapon, the better you're going to get with it. So that encourages experimentation. So I'm always swapping out and customizing different weapons for the game itself. Additionally, in combat, you have your owl, which is this little sort of like hover drone that can work as a flashlight, but also has combat capabilities. You can customize up to 4 different combat options for it. Some of the ones that I found that I really like, there's a move that'll lift you up into the air and then you slam down on the ground. You can have it go distract an enemy. Especially early on, that's going to be the one you'll use the most, because as you're figuring out the ebbs and flows of the combat system, you'll really only want to be taking on 1 to 2 enemies at a time max, and it's very easy to get overwhelmed. And I think this is a good point to address, some of the things people have commented on in the lead up to launch of the game, is that they thought this was a Souls-like, or a Souls-like, which is very much not the case here. I think most games now, if you're doing combat that has a stamina bar, or you're stepping out of the way with like a well-timed dodge or a parry, it's like, oh, that's Dark Souls. It's not. It's just. It's hard to describe that. You can turn on the option for, like, if you die, you can lose your items that you've collected, or like, enemies will respawn, but that's off by default. So that's not the base way that the game's intended to be played. The other thing about combat that I really enjoyed is, as you're fighting, if you're taking hits, your stamina only comes up to what your maximum health is. So if you're at half health, you only have half stamina to work with. And you're not using an Estus flask that every time you rest or save refills. You're doing, every time you land a hit on an enemy, it'll refill part of a gauge that you can then choose to say, all right, I'm going to tap one of the shoulder buttons at the right time to refill my health up to that point. So it's sort of a risk-reward system of, do you want to keep refilling your health, or do you want to play it safe, get a small bit back, get another small bit, and so on and so forth. And that was tough in the beginning, because you're balancing a whole lot of mechanics that get thrown at you and gradually build up over time. And I think the game manages all of that super well, because it's not, out the gate, it's not throwing 50 enemies at you. But there was one moment where I'm going into this sort of tunnel, and all of a sudden I'm surrounded by like 10 of these hollow enemies, and they had just given me this sort of whirlwind spin attack, and it's very clear, like, hey, group them up, start doing like huge AoE damage to them, and it was fantastic. And I really, once you get the attack heal combination down, you won't, or at least I haven't been using nearly as many of the consumables to get my health back as I did in the beginning. Okay, so on to the gameplay. The actual movement and locomotion in the game as you're controlling Remy as he's moving around Hadia, to me struck similar chords of PlayStation's Returnal, where you're controlling a very tight move set. Like it's very snappy and responsive in the way that I want. With as quickly as you're moving around. The actual sort of story elements and sort of the weird science fiction, borderline retrofuturism vibes remind me of Control and, of course, the Deus Ex games as well, which makes sense because there's a lot of creative influence from team members that worked on those games.
It seems.
And as I said in the beginning, there's times where you'll be slamming your head against the wall trying to figure out a puzzle or what the game's trying to tell you to do next, and that to me just felt so much like Blueprints in the best possible way. And I just absolutely adore that. One of the other things that I think this game does so well that I think if there's gonna be like a video game constitution, it should be, hey, your audio logs are gonna play in the background. And that is one of the things that Hell Is Us does. You're picking up a tape, and it's going to play while you're exploring around. It's fantastic. That should be in every game, and just moving forward. So I was fortunate enough to get early access to the game, so I've been playing for the last couple of days, and obviously the code was provided by PlayStation and the team at Rogue Factor and their PR company, Dead Good Media. I've been playing the game on PS5 Pro. It is one of the best-looking games on the system. This comes right after playing Death Stranding 2. I booted up Hell Is Us, and immediately, as you're walking around, like I'm running through the puddles just because they look that good. It is absolutely fantastic. And I loved also as well, the use of audio diaries that constantly, you're picking them up and they're not turning off as soon as you back out of that menu. They're playing in the background while you play, and I love that. Some of the things that I think could be improved with the game, and obviously, I've not had the chance to beat the game yet, so obviously this is all taken with a grain of salt within the first few hours of the game, comes in the form of enemy variety. You're fighting a lot of these humanoid-looking hollow husks, and then their counterpart in those battles are these sort of spherical amalgamations of emotions like guilt and terror and rage, that you'll have to destroy those before you can eliminate the hollows. That kind of feels... the battles can sometimes feel like old Kingdom Hearts, like Heartless-style fights, where, you'll start to recognize like different patterns and things like that to where you can start to clear these guys pretty quickly. And I'm hopeful that, some of the larger boss fights or things that you'll see later on in the game further develop the ideas that are presented here in the early stages of the game, because I'm really interested to see where that goes. So yeah, just to kind of round things out here, I think Hell Is Us is an absolutely fantastic action game. I love the exploration, the puzzle solving, and I'm just really interested to see what the rest of the industry thinks about it. This is the first time I've been able to get early access to a game like this, and it's been an exciting opportunity to bring those thoughts that I've had over the last couple days to you. I'd love to hear what you think about it. If I had to give it a score right now with my first impressions, I'd land somewhere around an 8 out of 10, and I think that is a great video game. Obviously, an 8 being great, 9 amazing, 10 masterpiece. I think Hell Is Us is a great game that you should check out. So definitely let me know what you think. Leave a comment. Share this with anybody that you know that might be interested in a game like this. And I look forward to coming back here in a few weeks after I've hopefully beaten the game and give my final review and verdict. So until then, my name's Dylan, and be sure to subscribe, comment, all that fun YouTube algorithmic stuff, and I'll talk at y'all at the next one.